Welcome. Here we are, the Lost and Found Woman's Bible Study. Today we have,
Hello, I'm Bobbi.
and we have,
Hello, I'm Nicole.
and we are just three girls that love Jesus that we met actually in Bible study, and actually just one time in Bible study.
Yeah, the one time I showed up to that Bible study, and it was like an immediate connection.
And we kind of just, the more we hung out and got to know each other, we decided, why not start our own Bible study and bring people into our house, to my home, and share the Word of God. Maybe people that weren't willing to go into a church or darken the door of a church. And so that's why we're here. And in this episode, we're going to talk about why we're here, how we met, and maybe a little bit of our testimonies. For me, I was a wild child. I grew up drinking. I partied all the time. I had extreme anxiety. And God saved me. About 7 years ago, my dad had a near-death experience. He died right in front of me and was gone for about an hour and 45 minutes when they were trying to revive him. And I got on my hands and knees and I told God, I'll give you my life if you just save my dad. And So that's kind of where my journey started. It wasn't a quick journey. It was a lot of years of wilderness and sanctifying and a lot of heartache and hardship and loss of friendship. But here we are. After that had happened with my dad, I started reading my Bible, and that's when it first started. And then, God showed me that I didn't have to do anything, that He would do it for me. He would be the one that changed me. And it's true. It wasn't on my doing. It's all from Jesus. He slowly, He took my anxiety away. He took out the bad things in my life, even broken friendships that I thought were my dear friends and people that I loved. But He was making a way for these wonderful ladies to come into my life. And then we started going to church. My whole family actually started going to church, and that's just kind of where it started. And then I decided I was going to join a Bible study. And then when I got to the Bible study, it was funny because it was Bobbi's only time she went. And Woodward's a small town. We're like 12,000 people. So we kind of all know each other. We know names, but it isn't something that where we actually knew each other. We knew of each other. We're about 5 to 7 age. She's 5 to 7 years older. She's 5 to 7 years younger. And so when we first went to Bible study, we were there. And Bobbi, actually, what happened?
I saw you at Bible study, and it is funny because, like Sarah said, growing up in Woodward, the perceptions you have of people that you don't really know their heart is really interesting because I grew up around your family, grew up around Amy. She was a year older than me, so I went to high school with her. And I think, did you graduate with Daniel?
Yeah.
Okay.
Daniel.
So I knew who you were, and I knew you were on the dance team. And I remember, it's just funny, the picture of Sarah, high school Sarah, that I have in my mind. And then you get to, you really get to know somebody. And I also have this is a little side note thing, but my mom did this fitness class years ago, and it maybe have been at
Zumba.
Peak. Was it at Peak Fitness? Zumba? She did it. You were in her class.
Oh, really? I think I only did that once. So that's
Well,
What is the one-in-one thing? That's
she's
weird.
I showed up to this class, and she didn't stay super consistent with it, but she went enough to know you. And this was I want to say I don't think I was living in Woodward at the time. It was probably a decade ago or something. But she goes, I love that Sarah girl.
Aww.
And she told me, this is what's funny, that you guys connected or something. But she goes, she told me before the last class, because you weigh at the first class, then you go through the course and you weigh at the end. She's like,
Oh, yeah.
Sarah told me to take a hot bath and it flushes out all your water, so you're going to weigh less at the last class. But it's so funny because I'm I just remember that story, and I remember thinking even then, I would love to connect with her someday. And then fast forward, here we are, you're sitting in this Bible study and you were sitting across from me. So I'm like looking at you across the room, like admiring. You were saying some really cool stuff. And I had seen you up in the balcony for a good couple months or something, but I hadn't ever got to talk to you. So we leave class and we're like walking into the big room and I grab you and I was like, hey, I think we should be best friends. Or I said something like really like awkward. I'm like, I don't know how she's going to receive this. But it was funny because you just go, okay. And I was like, oh, wow. You know,
That was
it's
easy.
a yes. Yeah. And then, yeah, that was probably a year ago or something. So it took some time,
It did.
but here we are.
And we were busy. And just on a side note, your mom is just like the coolest lady.
She's
Same
fun.
thing, like, Bobbi grew up in church. And, my family we went occasionally,
Mhm.
but it was never a steady thing. Like, I'm one of those people that have asked Jesus into her heart like about 15 million times.
Just to make sure
Yeah,
like
I'm
he's
like,
there.
well, I don't know if this is right, but let's try it again. Like,
Yeah.
I never knew that I was like super saved. I always thought I had to like work for that. And
Yeah.
really, like, now I know that I don't. But
Mm.
I love being around your family. Your brothers are awesome. You're awesome. So
Aw,
it's been a
thank you.
great. And I do kind of remember now. I have such a bad memory, but I do remember that class now.
Yeah.
Because I was like, Zumba, I've only did that like once, but I think it was like a weight class where
Okay. It
like
was
where
a
we
while back.
exercised and
Mm-hmm.
like tried to lose weight. It was like a 6-week class or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so. And then Nicole, same thing. We met, and this story's kind of different too. Same thing, Bible study. And I loved listening to her. She had great prayers. Like I'm not a very good prayer out loud. I'm trying to work on that. I'm really good at praying to myself or to God, of course. But I remember also I told her this afterwards. The few first times I met her, it's like I loved being around her. But then when I would leave, I would have like this weird feeling. And to the point I started praying for her because I was like, why? Like, I feel a connection with her. But when I leave, I feel like almost weird or like would think weird things or bad thoughts about her. And, so I started praying and I was like, God, I don't want to have these thoughts about her. I like her. Like, what is going on? And it was hard telling her that at first because I was like, she's going to think I'm weird, but
Nope.
she didn't. And so then we actually started hanging out first, but you can tell the story about Bible study too.
The thing that drew me to Sarah the most was she was talking about how she's like, you guys, you know what I've started doing? And of course, I'm just like, what? And she was like, I started praying before I started reading my Bible and I'm retaining it better. And God's speaking through me. And I'm like, I need to be near this girl. Like the way that you were on fire for Jesus, like sparked that in me where I wanted to be back to that. And
Yeah.
so it was just this attachment. And I was like, okay, there's something there. And it was really cool because one night after Bible study, we stood outside and we talked and we both were like, Sarah kept going, you're going to think I'm weird. And I'm like, no, I'm not. And she'd tell me something. I'd be like, you're going to think I'm weird. And she's like, no, I'm not. And so we just had this connection. And then we just kept hanging out more and more and more. And God just kept putting us together. The cool thing about these two ladies is I tell people, I've had good friends. I've always had friends, but I've never had, friends that I considered like sisters. And my mom told us in the Bible study the last time we had our Bible study at your house, how she had prayed for years and years for me to have good, solid friendships, and how that Bobbi and Sarah are now like God has placed you guys in my life for a reason. You're not just my friends, you're my sisters. And it's beautiful to be able to, when you're going through something, to know that you have two people that you can call immediately.
Yeah.
And I told Bobbi this probably back last spring. I said, I didn't realize that there was a piece of my heart missing until he brought me Bobbi. And so it's just really awesome how God works. And what's cool about it is we're three people that you would never have put together as friends.
It's true.
It is true.
Bobbi and I,
age-wise.
we sing, like we have the same, like we sing, we kind of have the same things.
Yes,
and
they
that.
both sing at church as
And
well.
so we have that in common, but it's just really cool how God just has orchestrated this whole friendship.
Yeah.
And we're starting to see this picture, because not only because we all felt a little bit, each one of our stories in our lives, we've been let down by friends. We've been hurt by friends. We've been let down by the church. We've been let down by this and this. And we all kind of have this common thing that we can be like, I understand your hurt. I understand where you're coming from. I felt that too. And it's just so cool how God has just put us all together, and how he's been in it. When we look back, he has been in every step of our journey. And it's just awesome how he's brought our friendship together. It's just really, really beautiful.
Yes. And I was craving, like, once I got to reading the Bible and really having a relationship with God, the few people I met with church, which are great people, I just didn't feel that connection. I felt like I'm a really spiritual person, and I wanted to find like people that were also very spiritual, that, saw things kind of in a different light. And so and I really saw that in both of you guys. Like, you guys are very spiritual. You're very close with God. We have the same, beliefs. I mean, we all believe the same, of course, but Jesus is our Savior. But just the way we viewed things and our outlooks, we started, like, it was more in common than what I was used to.
Yeah.
Because, when we first met, I remember telling you that I felt like Christianity had kind of been watered down. Because the more I was getting into my Bible and reading it, I was feeling these certain ways, and I'm like, why aren't they feeling this way? Like, why aren't they on fire? And I know we all go through phases.
Yes.
We're not always going to be completely on fire with the Lord, and there's hard times and there's wilderness times. But when I was on fire, I wanted those people I could talk to and be like, okay, I know I sound crazy, but God is showing me this, or God is showing me that.
Yeah.
And, and I found that with you guys, and I'm so thankful.
Yes, me too.
And, and that's why I kind of got off topic for a little bit. That's the whole purpose of this. It was to bring women in, and even from your home, so you can pull up your app or pull up YouTube, and you can share with us, the stories of these wonderful women. And, we're starting right now with the woman series of the women of the Bible. But, going forward, we will probably do other things and have podcasts about interesting subjects or things that we're struggling with. And so, yeah. So do you guys want to, I kind of shared a little bit of my testimony. So would you guys like to share a little bit of yours?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to go? Go for it.
Okay. I am 46 years old, and I have been a Christian since I was 6. I'll never forget, my parents thought I was too young. And so I was sitting in a GA room with my friend Kirsten Campbell, and my parents were in a band, and so they were having practice. So we were in this room, and I looked at Kirsten and I said, I'm asking Jesus into my heart. So if you want to, you can pray with me. And then afterwards I told my mom and dad, and they were like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah. And so, God told my mom at that point that I was very spiritual. And then immediately Satan just started attacking this girl. And so I've been through, and when I say hell and back, you guys know my story. But fast forward to December 31st, 2022, me and my boys were walking out of the hotel, and we were going to a Thunder game. We were meeting my daughter and her boyfriend, and they were walking in front of me, and it hit me. You guys, when I say a ton of bricks, I mean like the Mack truck backed up behind me, and all of them fell on me. And God said, none of your children are going to heaven. What are you going to do about that? And I went, Fast forward 2.5 months later, I get sick out of the blue. No one knows why I'm sick. No one knows what's going on. I literally had to surrender everything back to the Lord. I've always been a Christian, and I know that God has brought me through, but I feel like the veil that I had was completely ripped off. And I was like, okay, this is do or die time, girl. Like, what are you going to do? I had to give my children back to the Lord because they're mine. He's like, no, they're not. I was sick. I lost 2 very important people in my life in that year. I literally, God, he humbled me in such a People in the world would probably think that it was cruel, but let me tell you something. It's been the most beautiful, most rewarding season of my life. Being sick was the best thing that ever happened to me. And I know people don't understand that. But when I talk about Hannah, struggles will bring you to the feet of Jesus in such an amazing way. And it will change your life. But what's awesome about that too is it changes other people's lives in the midst of that. Now, are my kids still? No. But you know what? I pray for them daily. I know that the Lord will answer my prayers one day.
Yes, he will.
And I have you two that pray for me. That's another thing I wanted to say. Not only do I have sisters, but I got prayer warriors that I know without a shadow of a doubt that you guys are praying for me and my family every day, which is a huge blessing. But God has always had his hand on me. And I've always known that I had a purpose, but I've never been able to fulfill that purpose because I have had so much stuff just always. And I've always made bad decisions and I've always done things without him being the center of it. But when he hit me with those ton of bricks that day, I was like, no more will Nicole make bad decisions. No more will he not be the center of everything that I do. And it has been hard, but it has been beautiful. And the thing that I rely on more than anything is people like, how do you do it? You're sick and how do you do this? I'm like, it's not my strength. It's the Lord's. The joy of the Lord is my strength. And I have to remember that. And I was telling Bobbi the other day, I said, I was going through a bad season, just a few days, but it was just like, I was being ugly. And I was like, I miss the joy of the Lord. And so that's what I prayed that night and the next morning. I'm like, Lord, I miss your joy. I need it back. And I wouldn't have done that before. I'd have wallered in my self-pity. I would have been, and it's just really cool how God has brought everything that I've gone through in my whole life. And I've lost a husband. I've been divorced, all this, but what got me were my kids, because God knows how much I love my children. Just like how much he loves us. I can't even fathom how much he loves us, but that unconditional love. And he had to use my children to bring me back to his feet. So
that's awesome. And yeah, that like brings back like control, when you're holding the control and you're not giving it to the Lord, he's not going to work.
That's right.
You've got to like lay it at his feet and really give it to him, and not go back and pick it back up.
Yeah.
You got to leave it
Well,
there.
and that's my testimony. That's something we won't talk about right now, but I always tell people, I prayed for a long time. God, give me my testimony. Give me a verse and give me a story in the Bible. And it was Jacob wrestling with God, because I guess I've wrestled. I am, because I have a problem with control. And then it was James 1, 2-5. In all circumstances, give thanks in all, in everything that we do, no matter what it is in your life, it's for his glory. So you can either wallow in it and feel sorry for yourself, and that's what I've done for years and years and years. Or you can be like, all right, thank you, Lord. Thank you for putting them. I used to get so mad at my mom when she'd be like, you have to thank him in all circumstances. I'm like, that's the dumb thing. I don't want to thank him. But now I see, and it says, she's like, it's scriptural. And I'm like, I know, but I don't want to thank him for doing this. But I do, because like I said, it makes me relatable. It makes me, people will come and talk to me, and people will understand me. And I can be like, I know what you're going through. And they don't, I've always been the type of person, I don't want anyone to ever feel that they're not worthy or that I'm better than them, because I'm not.
Yeah,
and I always want people to be able to come talk to me about anything. And I think God has given me that spirit, and he's allowed me to go through things, horrible, hard things, so I can relate to people.
Yeah. And, in your wilderness is when he does the best work. He grows your faith. He grows your perseverance. I mean, he grows everything. He rips you of things that you don't need. It's really beautiful.
It is.
And I think too, something about you, Nicole, is like when you do grow up around people, and you and I have known each other for a long time.
Yeah.
when you can just tell something's different in somebody, it's like the coolest compliment because
Mhm.
they're the same person on the outside, but like you just can visibly see that there's been a change in
Yeah.
them. And that's something that when you and I got reconnected, like a year or so ago, I saw you at Miss Woodward.
Yeah.
And I remember I like looked at where you were sitting and I told her, I was like, it looked like you had a glowing halo around
Yeah.
you. Like you looked stunning, but like I could tell you had joy. And it
Mhm.
was something that I just knew it was different in you. And so I think it's really cool how that's really what is the judge of like, are we growing in the Lord? I
Yes.
think is the people that know us to be able to say, hey, I've seen this change in you, or
Mhm.
you handled that thing differently.
Yeah.
And I
That's
know God's working
Yeah.
it's
that.
the fruits of the spirit,
Yeah.
patience, love, joy, forbearance. I don't know
Yeah.
them all right now, but
Ayler has a little song.
Oh,
And the
that's
fruits of
awesome.
love,
What are
joy,
they?
peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, and self-control. I got it.
Maybe
Yeah.
we need to
It's
learn
a
that
fast
song.
one.
Maybe
Where's
I need to
Ayler?
learn it so I can put it in my head.
It's a good one.
Thank you.
Nathan knows it.
And then also, I was thinking earlier when you said like you didn't want to thank the Lord. I've noticed in my life, like the times I don't want to thank or I don't want to pray
Mhm.
are the times I need to the
Yes,
most.
Mhm.
absolutely.
And the times you're like, God, I'm not hearing you.
Mm.
Where are you? You seem absent. And that's really when you have to hone in and be in the prayer closet.
Yes. Mhm.
Get
Or the
on your
times you don't
knees.
want to be around community.
Yes. And
Or
we're like,
around
get out.
church.
Sarah's really good at that about
She
she's
is.
like pulling me out. She's like, come over. Or she'll be like, I'm at your house. I'm like, gosh, fine. I'm good enough.
You are
I'm-
good about that.
Yeah, she
I'm
is.
a lot more of like a light stepper on those things.
Yeah.
But there's been some times that this girl's just hit me with the headliner
Yeah.
and I'm like, dang, that stung a little, but like,
But thank you.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm like, okay. But
She
okay,
goes, I
needed
feel
it."
like
I'm
you're
doing it out of
idolizing.
love.
I know
Yes,
you do.
no, we
yeah.
know.
No, we know.
You've got that gift. It's the gift that, like, I feel like my mom and Daniel have this thing where they can say the really hard thing and
Mhm.
somehow you like love them more after the
Yes,
fact.
exactly.
Like, there's no offense taken. It's just like,
But in the way
okay.
she delivers it, it's like,
It's just
now
even.
I'm going to just talk to you like this. And you're like, oh, you just ripped my heart out, but thanks.
Yeah,
Okay.
you
I
did
love
it in the best way.
you."
Well,
All
I'm a
right.
question asker, so I've
Yeah,
always,
you are.
people just know that's my nature. So it's for me to just ask absurd things. It's like, oh, it's just Sarah.
It's just
She's
Sarah.
just
That's-
curious.
Sarah
She's
being
just
Sarah.
She's not
inquisitive.
doing it to judge you. She just wants to know.
Yeah.
Okay, Bobby,
I love
tell us
that.
about
Your
your
turn.
Okay.
your walk with Jesus.
So, same as Nicole, grew up in a Christian home, and my parents, as long as I've been alive, they've always been very faithful to be in church consistently, in, Bible studies, communities, serving. They've always painted a great picture of just loving other people and loving broken and messy people. Like, I think back to my childhood, I didn't really know the difference between rich or poor, or like my parents just were so the same across the board with everybody that
Such a
until I
blessing.
got older did I realize there was a difference.
Yeah,
You know
you're
what I
like,
mean?
"What that there is?"
And I'm so thankful for that. And so just lots of pictures I can think of just my parents modeling that really well. I came to faith at a young age. I remember sitting on my kitchen counter. I was probably 6 or 7. And my mom had a cardboard box, and I was just asking her a lot of questions. I had been thinking about Jesus, and she took a Sharpie and she drew like this little stick figure, and she's like, here you are, and there's this massive gap, and here's Jesus, or here's God, is like God, here he is, the creator of the universe, and he created you, and like here you are, and there's this division, and it's sin has separated us. And she just painted this really cool picture literally on a cardboard box
I love that.
and drew a cross. And she's like, the only way that you can get across that gap over to be, with God and have him and is through Jesus, his son. And that's the sacrifice. That's what went to the cross for your sin. And I just kept thinking, I remember in that moment thinking someone died for me. Like it weighed really heavy on me. And so that was really cool. And So from that point on, I think that I had just a relationship with Jesus that this is going to sound like weird, but like it, in my childlike faith and just naive as I was to the world, I always thought that the world was created specifically for my family. Like that's how I viewed God. Like I remember like looking out the window and thinking like when we would take trips or something, I would look up at the sky and remember like I would think like certain things would happen to our family because God, like it was like we were in a movie and we were the main characters and everything around us was part of our story, which is a weird way to think,
No, but
but
it's
like
so true.
It
It's
is,
like that
yeah.
with everyone. That's
Yeah.
what the cool thing
I
about
just
God is.
remember thinking like he has made us and the world is ours to enjoy
Yeah,
in him.
That's
And
exactly what it is.
and so that's just a big part of my testimony is really just my family and like both sides of my family they walk closely with the Lord and such a blessing. Both my grandmothers have demonstrated that in my life in many ways. But I think like really significant moments for me that were turning points in my faith. How you said like I was walking. I remember being one way in mid walk and then flipping and being another way all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And I think two really significant things for me, something that I went through in middle school, watching the way that my dad modeled forgiveness to somebody has forever changed my life. That the way my parents handled a really, really broken and messy situation has been pivotal in my faith. And just watching my father just his grace and humility and forgiveness through that has marked me forever. And then another thing would be like I was living in the city by myself, was not really walking with the Lord, screwed up, messed up with like a previous relationship, and I just felt like crap. And I remember like driving home and I'm like, I've shared this with you guys, but I'm like, I was just felt so weighty about my sin because it had been something that like my people had fought with me so hard through, and I was over it. And then I like a dog back to his vomit. I'm like, oh. So I like go back, do this stupid thing. Driving home, I was literally thinking thoughts like, you don't deserve to live. You're a stupid piece of like everything in the book was just like hitting me. And I remember I called like a family meeting because I'm like, I've got to tell people. I just, and we're like setting, literally they're all sitting in this circle. And I just like couldn't audibly say the thing that I had done because I'm like, what are my brothers going to think? What is my father going to think? What are, like I'm going through all these things of like, I just don't even deserve to be in this room with these people right now, And I'm trying to say it. And it's just like not coming out. And my brother just like stops everything. And he's like, Bobbi, you don't even have to tell us.
I love that.
He's like, you know what? Let me start first with my sin. And then he just started telling me his sin. And then it was like a ripple effect. The whole room's like, well, let me tell you about this thing. And let me tell you about this broken thing in my life. And that has been also something that's just been like, just a moment of like grace that you could literally taste it in the room, And so I think like those things in my life have just been these things that have formed just who God is in me and what I want to be to others and what I hope that I am to my family and to my husband. And not all the time though. I'm sorry, babe. But Sarah helped me right before this podcast. We're going to work on that. But so, yeah, that's kind of my testimony is like, I feel like I've, just so many moments in life where God has just painted a beautiful picture of his sovereignty and his goodness.
Yes.
And not one time have I come back to the Lord in brokenness and repentance because he has been ashamed of me.
That's right.
It hasn't ever been like a, put me in the corner. You're this
It's
bad
bad.
person that's
Yes,
done this
no.
thing. It's always been these beautiful pictures of his kindness
Mm.
that has brought me into repentance. And then other people that have ushered me back there too, you know, like to tell me truth. So, yeah. And of course, like the current season is just that
Wild.
control thing.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And what I love the most about you two is because I've always been a very open book. What you
Mhm.
see is what you get with me.
Yeah.
I've been that way since I can remember, which can sometimes be scary to some people, especially people that want to hide who they are. And I encountered that a lot sometimes in the church because I am real vulnerable. But what I love about you two is you let me be vulnerable. You encourage my vulnerability, and you love that that's who I am. You don't try to stifle that. You don't try to stop that. You don't try any of that. And you appreciate that in me. And so that helps me be vulnerable in Jesus, which makes it where I can grow more in him. The thing I love about you, Bobbi, the most is I get to be quirky with you. I get to be that weird person that I am. And you like let me do that. So I'm like, oh yeah, let's
Be myself.
And then
Yeah.
I meet Sarah and she's the same way. And we're like, we make up weird songs for our dogs and for our kids and what we're going to wear and this, just different things. And it's so funny. I just love how God has I can't even put it in words. I wish I'm going to pray, God, give me a word because I can't verbalize it. It's unique and it's beautiful. And I just can't, it's awesome to be on this journey with you guys. It really is.
Yeah.
I agree. We're excited.
I know. I'm really excited about this. So,
Okay, well, we probably better. What time are we at? Getting close?
Okay.
Okay, guys. Well, tune in for the next episode. I think we're going to start on Sarah and
Yep.
talk about her faith
Mhm.
or lack thereof. Just kidding.
Yes, well, she did.
She did waver, but, God's promises are still true.
That's right.
So we will see you next episode.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yay, bye.
Thank you, guys.